You know that feeling, right? Like you're wading through mental quicksand. You're trying your best to focus, but your thoughts are just this jumbled mess. It's that super frustrating brain fog we've all dealt with. Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain and really get into why thinking clearly is so surprisingly difficult.
It's such a weird paradox, isn't it? You feel like you're doing all the right things, trying to connect the dots, but the big picture just won't come into focus. And it's more than just annoying. It can actually make you feel like you're failing at the most basic human task of just thinking.
And that feeling, it comes from this powerful, unspoken assumption that we all carry around. The idea that clear thinking should just be automatic, that it should come naturally to anyone who's smart and focused. But what if that core belief is just completely wrong? Today, we're putting that whole idea under a microscope.
All right, so let's start with the big one, what I'm calling the myth of easy clarity. This is that little voice in our head that tells us confusion isn't part of the process. It's a sign that we failed. We're pretty much taught to see it as a personal flaw, something to be kind of ashamed of.
I mean, think about it. When that mental fog descends, where does your mind immediately go? Yep, straight to self-blame. I'm just not trying hard enough. Or, I can't seem to focus. Or, the one that really stings, maybe I'm just not smart enough for this. We take this totally universal human experience and we turn it into our own private little failure.
And make no mistake, this isn't an accident. It's practically by design. From our very first day in school all the way to our last performance review at work, we are rewarded for having quick, clear answers. That's what competence looks like. Confusion? Well, that's seen as weakness. So we internalize this really simple equation. To be seen as valuable, you have to always be clear.
But, okay, if it's just a myth, why on earth does it feel so real? Well, it's because our brains are constantly running these little programs in the background finding evidence to support it. So let's explore why this myth feels so true by looking at the reinforcement loops that are always running.
Think about your daily routine for a second. Answering a simple email, figuring out what you're going to have for lunch, your brain just clicks right into gear. The thinking is basically frictionless, and the answers come super easily. These constant, small successes are what train our brain to believe that clarity is its default natural state. So this creates this incredibly powerful psychological feedback loop. You know, we hit a simple problem, our brain serves up a quick answer, and hey, it works out. Success. So our mind registers that win, and it learns a really dangerous lesson, that fast and easy equals correct. It just keeps reinforcing the idea that all good thinking should feel this effortless.
And here's where it gets really dangerous. Our brains start to confuse the feeling of confidence with the reality of actually being correct. We get a little addicted to that rush of certainty, and we start to trust it, even when our actual grasp of the situation is paper thin.
Now, this system works perfectly fine until it doesn't. So what happens when our internal expectation of easy clarity collides head-on with the messy, complex reality of the world we live in now? Well, this is where that myth completely shatters.
I mean, in the world we have to think in today is like a fire hose of information. You've got data streams, hot takes, endless notifications. You've got opinions that are dressed up to look like facts. And there's this constant, relentless pressure to know, to respond, to have a take on everything right now.
And here is the trap that we all fall into. We do what we've always been taught to do. We just try harder. We read more articles, we listen to more podcasts, but we just end up feeling more confused. The fundamental equation that we've trusted our whole lives, that more effort equals more clarity, is broken. And when that happens, when your absolute best efforts just lead to more confusion, you start to wonder. You ask that quiet, kind of scary question, is something wrong with me? Is my brain the problem here?
The answer is no. 1,000 times, no. Your brain isn't failing you at all. It's actually executing a pretty brilliant survival strategy. So let's take a look at what's really going on under the hood when you're feeling overwhelmed and confused.
So here's the key shift in perspective we need to make. That feeling of confusion isn't a bug in your system, it's actually a feature. Think of it like a warning light. When you're faced with an avalanche of information, your mind isn't breaking, it's adapting. It's deploying a survival tactic. You see, we like to think our brain's goal is to achieve some deep, nuanced understanding of the world. But the truth? When it's under stress, its primary objective is way more primal. Just maintain a coherent story. It will prioritize a stable narrative over a true one, because coherence is what keeps our world from feeling like it's totally falling apart. And this forces our brain to make a really critical trade-off. We might prize depth, but our brain craves certainty. And why is that? Because certainty is cheap. It's a low-energy state.
Wrestling with ambiguity, on the other hand, is metabolically really expensive. So our brain does what any efficient system would do. It chooses the path of least resistance, a simple, stable story.
And what's the result of all that? Well, we end up with confidence as a cheap substitute for genuine understanding. That feeling of being sure becomes much more valuable to us than doing the hard work of actually being right. Our brain has optimized itself for survival, not for truth.
So, if trying harder is actually part of the problem, not the solution, where do we go from here? Well, we need a new mental model. We need a completely different way of approaching the act of thinking itself, one that's actually built for the world we live in today. And here it is. This is the fundamental shift we need to make. We need to stop seeing clarity as a skill that you possess, like being good at math. We need to start seeing it as a condition that you create, like tending to a garden.
And this one idea, it changes everything. The path to clearer thinking isn't about trying to fix your brain. It's not about more willpower or more grit. It's about becoming an architect of your own mental space. It's about designing an environment where clarity isn't just possible, but actually probable.
So the next time you feel that mental fog rolling in, I want you to ask a different kind of question. Don't ask, why can't I think clearly? Instead ask, what conditions can I create right now to make clarity possible? Because the power isn't just in your brain, it's in the world you choose to build around it.